Hey all, it's Starzy and today we are here to do my November wrap up. And hey, bookshelves, because we're back to filming in the evening, so we have to use a lamp anyway. Quality lighting. November was a fairly eventful month in terms of the fact I was working again, and where I live we now don't have any active COVID cases, so we've actually been, allowed out and doing stuff, and so I've actually been able to see my friends, my close friends and family over the past month, so that's also been great. So, we're actually kind of busy now between work and all that other stuff, and also obviously we're coming into Christmas, which leads to its own set of busyness. So November was fairly eventful, and in terms of reading, because I know that's why most people come to these videos, I'm happy to report that I did read considerably more than I read in October, which, isn't really difficult when I only finished one book in October, but I think I read 7 books in November, so yeah. So I guess we'll just get straight into the books I read. So the first thing that I listened to in November was actually my childhood favorite, The Forest of Silence by Emily Roeder, which is the first book in the Del Toro Quest series. I do have all of the Del Toro Quest books physically, but they're over on my other bookshelf because the little white bookshelf, which is the one you're more likely to have seen before, is the one I tend to put my favorites on. It's too far away. But yeah, first book in my childhood favorite series. It's a book that very much kind of sets up the series, as first books tend to do, and because they're children's books, they're quite short anyway. I don't know, it's nice to be back in this world that I was so fond of as a child, I guess, and I'm interested to... Because the reason I listen to this is because all the audiobooks have recently been added to my library, so I saw that and was like, ooh. So I'm probably likely to... Yeah, I want to continue listening to all of the ones, at least like the first, is it 7 or 8 books that are in the original series. It's a children's fantasy series where you've got like a kind of like dark lord that takes over, and these people are going on a quest to restore the Belt of Del Toro to try and drive him out. Yeah, so it's kind of your typical fantasy, typical questing fantasy in that way, but it's also quite dark for a children's series. A lot of threat of death and darkness and all of that. It'll always have a special place in my heart. I can't give you any kind of objective review beyond saying, yeah, the first one's kind of just okay, just in terms of it's very much set up and there isn't much of the bulk of the story in it itself, but hopefully I will continue listening to them. Yeah. And I did also read a few kind of witchy related books this month. I did get back into that. So I'll leave those till the end of the books, I think. And so then the next thing I read was The Girl in Red by Christina Henry, which is a Little Red Riding Hood retelling. I really enjoyed this. I think I ended up giving it 4 stars. I really liked this. So it's like a horror dystopian Little Red Riding Hood retelling. I love fairy tale retellings. I've mentioned that a lot, although, Little Red Riding Hood's more of like a folk tale, but regardless. So it already had that going for it. I love spooky stuff and horror, so there was already all of that working for it, and I also just think it was well done. The one thing that bothered me was there were kind of things that just weren't answered, like some of the stuff that's going on in this setting, like I just wanted to know more, and the story just kind of ended, and I was like, but what about all that other crap? I want to know more. I want to know more. Like I can't really say anything without kind of spoiling some stuff, but I just wanted more explanation of some of the things. But for what was in the story, I really enjoyed it, and it was a really interesting take on Little Red Riding Hood. You've also got some different rep and stuff in there, like the Little Red Riding Hood character herself lost one of her legs at one point or something, like before all of this breaks out. And yeah, it's kind of sad and horrifying at points, but also, yeah, I just really liked it. Bad stuff happens and she has to go find her grandmother, because, Little Red Riding Hood. I don't know what more to tell you. I enjoyed it. Even if you like horror stuff and the world's going to hell stuff and fairy tale retellings and Sapphire Flames by Alona Andrews, which is the 4th book in the Hidden Legacy series. The first 3 books, which are kind of like a contained trilogy of their own, so I kind of consider them almost their own series. But this is the 4th book, so this book is not following our original characters, it's following one of the younger sisters of the main characters. I still really enjoyed this. I still gave it 4 stars. I really like the Hidden Legacy series. I really like the family and the world. And while I didn't really enjoy this as much as the original 3, just because obviously like the original characters I'm used to following weren't really in it, I can't really tell you much about it without, I guess, because it's the 4th book in a series. But yeah, we're following different characters. It's an urban fantasy series where there's magic in the world and that affects power dynamics within the world. I've spoken about this series a lot because I read the first 3. Well, I reread the first 3 in May, and Burn for Me is one of my favorite books. But yeah, I listened to this, I did enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it as much, following different characters. And the other thing was, the reason that like the original main couple wasn't in this book was a bit like, I don't know how much I buy that. And some of the stuff of like exchanging power within the family was a bit like, But yeah, I'll continue reading this series at some point or another, regardless, because I just really enjoy it. And it's just, I've said this before, that like Burn for Me is a comfort read, so really this series kind of overall is, even when bad stuff's happening, it still just kind of gives me the comforting feelings to read or listen to. In this case, this was the first one I've listened to. Actually, no, I listened to the novella as well. I'm being like the least articulate I feel that I've like ever been in a wrap-up. Everything that I've told you about what I've read up to this point, I enjoyed. I don't think that I read anything in the month that I didn't enjoy, thinking about it, so there's that. And then the last novel that I read was The Shadow Friend by Alex North, which I just finished yesterday, which is a thriller where there was like a murder in a town of a child, and there have been kind of copycat killers since then, like it was children killing other children. And a man who was around during those original killings kind of returns to his hometown, and stuff's going on, and you know, there's all these interweaving stories, and there's lots of twists and turns, and some things did, you know, surprise me a bit, and I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I know a lot of people have said they didn't enjoy it as much as The Whisper Man, but I thought when I read The Whisper Man by the same author, I kind of felt like just okay about it. I think I enjoyed this more, and I don't know whether part of that is because it has elements that appeal to me more, like this, you know, kind of follows your band of friends as children, which is something I've talked about before. I kind of enjoy, like it's part of why I love the It 2017 movie so much. So it had elements of stuff like that, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. It also involves like lucid dreaming is a big plot point, and it's another one of those ones, it's a bit like, is there something supernatural, is there not, all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I enjoyed it. So in terms of like the novels I read children's fantasy, horror, urban fantasy, and a thriller. So, you know, pretty typical of me. Pretty typical genres there for me. Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls, 100 Immigrant Women Who Changed the World. This is something I was technically reading months ago and just hadn't gotten around to logging on Goodreads because I had an arc of it through NetGalley, and it's one of those ones where it's got, you know, a bunch of different women from around the world and who've contributed to the world in some way. In this case, specifically focusing on immigrant women. It's got like you get like the page of their story or their information, and then you've also got an illustration alongside it. And in this series, in the Goodnight Stories series, all of the art is like by different artists, so that also makes it really interesting that you're seeing all this different type of art throughout it. So I really love these books. Like, they're visually beautiful, and I think they're really great in terms of having all of these kind of encouraging stories for children about all the different things that they can do and people they can look up to and all of that kind of stuff. Like, so I love these books. I technically haven't read every single page in it, and that's why I hadn't logged it earlier. And also I'm pretty sure this book is out now. I think it came out in the past couple of months. So you can buy a physical copy now, which is great because the art was also kind of difficult to read digitally at times. I really like books like this. I've mentioned other similar formatted books before. I love picture books, I love history, and it kind of combines a lot of that stuff. So yeah, technically that's not something I read in November, but it's something that I hadn't spoken about before, so I'm mentioning it now. Otherwise, the other things that I did actually read in November were all witchcraft related books in one way or another. I'll start off with the one that's more history than like practical witchcraft. So I listened to Waking the Witch Reflections on Women, Magic and Power by Pam Grossman. I listened to the audiobook of this. It's kind of a mix of things. It's a mix of like the history of witchcraft, witches in media, and also some kind of personal accounts by the author, who is a modern witch. And I thought it was really interesting, and there was a lot of interesting exploration from, again, everything from things like witches in Buffy the Vampire Slayer to, you know, Salem, and all of that kind of stuff. And it was really interesting. My one issue with this book is there wasn't any real order to it. It kind of just flowed into one thing after another without much structure. But aside from that, like, it was very interesting. And if you have any interest in witches and witchcraft, history, media, I did like it. I gave it 4 stars because yeah, I did really enjoy it and find it really interesting, but there was just the structural thing. And the first witchcraft related book I read in November was actually Kitchen Table Magic by Melissa Sanova, which is like an introductory witchcraft book. Nothing new in it if you've read like, not really anything new in it if you've read like any other beginner's witchcraft book, but I do think it's a good one, and I really like her tone, and I really like the way the author kind of interspersed personal accounts within the book, which like not all books do that, and it gives you that kind of more personal look at stuff in practice. Nothing new to me, but as far as like beginner witchcraft books go, I think it's decent. And the last one I do actually have physically. Wiccan Kitchen, A Guide to Magical Cooking and Recipes, Lisa Chamberlain. I have no connection to Wicca, but I wanted something kitchen witchcraft related. It's also beautiful, like, hello. I mean, just, it's a very, very pretty book. Very pretty book. It goes into like kitchen magic, basically, including there's some recipes in there and things like that, and just some general stuff. It's a nice little book and real pretty. I'm not mad about having it, despite not having a religious bone in my body. I've read a lot of witchcraft related stuff this year, and I have a lot of witchcraft related stuff I've read just in general throughout my life, and I never really elaborated on it much in any of these like wrap-ups and stuff, because it's a very niche thing that obviously a lot of people aren't interested in. And also beyond that, there's the whole thing of like, witchcraft still gets a very negative perception from like the general public, especially like people who are religious in ways of like, you know, a lot of Christians and stuff like that wouldn't necessarily be fond of it. So from the perspective of someone who, especially from the perspective of someone who does work in religious schools occasionally, it's another reason I don't talk about it much. But like, I don't know if people are interested in knowing more. I don't know, but yeah, pretty. I think this is one of the lowest energy wrap-ups I've ever filmed, but it is like evening and I've already filmed a video today, and I've streamed today. So I don't know, I guess I'm getting tired or something. I'm getting tired. Yeah, but anyway, they're the books I read in November. Movies. Did we watch any movies? I feel like we watched at least one, surely. Let's go check the Letterboxd. We watched one movie in November, but we watched Men in Black International 2019 movie starring Chris Hemsworth and I don't remember her name, plays Valkyrie in Ragnarok. This movie was kind of okay-ish. Honestly, like, the biggest appeal is seeing, you know, like Valkyrie and Thor team up again. I wouldn't say it's a great movie. It's also not like awful. It's alright. And then in terms of TV, we did watch some things. So the main thing we watched American Gods, which there's only 2 seasons of, which I was so disappointed by. Like, an episode ended and we went to keep watching and it was like, there is no more. It's like, what? You can't just leave me like that. This is the problem with watching like current series rather than going back and watching things. So that's frustrating. But it's a really weird show, and I've never read American Gods by Neil Gaiman. I've always wanted to, but I really love mythology. I kind of love weird crap when it's like my brand of weird or weird that I can connect to, which I guess I can with this. There's also some interesting characters. And yeah, I love seeing what different people kind of do with the idea of like old gods in our current world, because that's what this is, and it's like old gods versus new gods. It's all very interesting, very weird, a lot of fun. I was really enjoying it, and now I guess I have to wait until, I think January, there's another season coming out. And then, what else have we watched? We definitely watched some other stuff. What did we start watching after that? I mean, my boyfriend started watching Fairy Tail, the anime, which I've never seen before, and I've caught a couple of episodes of him watching that. Apparently it's one of his favorites. I don't know, wizards with magic, and there's a blue cat. I'm sure we watched something else though. What else did we watch? Oh, started watching some of Good Omens because we'd finished American Gods. Watched a few episodes of that, which I don't like as much as American Gods. Don't really connect to the humor in this that much. I'm not sure whether it's entirely my brand of humor. I don't know whether I'm going to continue watching it, but that's like an angel and a devil watching over the Antichrist. There's also the fact that like the more monotheistic mythology is not something that interests me as much as like pagan mythology. That is something I watched some of, and I don't know. I've said this before, that because I don't have anything where I specifically log what TV we watch, I can never remember what we've watched, and like almost every month without fail there's something that I forget to mention and that you just never know about. I think American Gods was the main thing. I mean, we haven't been watching a ton together this month because the PlayStation 5 came out, and my boyfriend has not left the couch very much since that happened. He's been playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla non-stop, and I've of course also been playing video games. I was playing friggin' Danganronpa today, which is weird. It's weird. It's weird. And the blood is like fluoro pink. I saw like the first deaths today when I was playing, and I haven't gotten up to the trial yet, so I don't know like who's dying, but there's like teenagers stuck in a school and the only way out is to kill someone and get away with it, and it's wild, man. It's wild. Animal Crossing had its Turkey Day thing and all the villagers just looked so happy, so that was adorable. When my little sibling came over, we played Five Nights at Freddy's, which I had had no experience with before, and that was low-key terrifying. But again, I do stream a lot of my gaming, so like if you ever want to know what I'm trying out, a lot of it does end up on Twitch. That was November. That's some of the media that I engaged with in November. Next month's December. How is there only 1 month left of 2020? How? And like Christmas and everything, so that'll be busy. Merry Christmas. Oh, The Mandalorian. That's another thing we've been watching because the recent season of The Mandalorian has been airing weekly, so we've been watching that, of course. Obviously, like, we're fans of Star Wars here. Yeah, been watching The Mandalorian. That's the other thing we've been watching weekly. I'm not like in love with The Mandalorian as a show. I feel like almost every episode is just another thing for the Mandalorian to fight while the child just eats stuff. And like, don't get me wrong, the child is adorable and I could watch him for extended periods of time just being adorable, but I don't know, I don't love it. It has its moments. It definitely has its moments. My boyfriend's very excited because the most recent episode has his like one of his favorite characters in it. From, what was she in originally? The Clone Wars. But yeah, that's the other thing we've been watching. I guess that's it. Apologies for being low energy, but also like, as we get busier, that's kind of just how shiz goes. I don't know, what was your favorite thing that you read in November? Are you doing anything exciting for December? Yeah, now that we're allowed to do stuff, obviously going to be seeing my immediate family on Christmas. My friends always do a Christmas dinner thing in December as well. And yeah, much excited. Although I'm not excited about the hot weather. Y'all who have a white Christmas, oh, you have no idea, my friends. You have no idea. It gets freaking hot here, and I'm not okay with it. I don't like hot weather, and I like it. Okay? Okay. Anyway, yeah. Stay safe. Starzy out.